This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome into the Monday Mashup on Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, Shea Norling. Joining me, again, my co-host from our old podcast and good friend, Tanner Seltzer. Tanner, what's up?
Hey, what's up? I'm just chilling. I'm ready to talk some Michigan football, some Detroit Tigers action, Nick Castellanos getting snubbed, and our thoughts on that.
Absolutely.
I'm excited about this. Let's get it going.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about, Tanner. We got MLB All-Star snub Nick Castellanos. We got the state of the state with Michigan and Michigan State rivalry. It's July, and it's already on fire. We got the Big Ten futures odds that came out and some interesting thoughts on that. And also Lakers fans doing mental gymnastics, vandalizing the LeBron mural. But before we get to that, obviously, you guys love premium sports coverage. That's why you're listening to Detroit Sports Podcast Network. That's why you're listening to the Monday Mashup. So you should check out The Athletic with premium sports content, best sports writers, the best articles, the best information, all the best statistics, opinions, everything that you could ask for in sports coverage is available at The Athletic. Tons of online articles and tons to read. Writers like Ken Rosenthal on there. And if you sign up at theathletic.com/DSP for Detroit Sports Podcast, theathletic.com/DSP, they're going to give you 30% off your subscription. So that's a deal you can't afford to pass up. Go ahead, get a subscription to The Athletic at theathletic.com/DSP today and save 30%. All right, Tanner, let's get into it.
All right, let's do it. First off, we got to talk about is people are losing their mind in Detroit over Nick Castellanos getting snubbed from the All-Star game. I personally don't think he got snubbed by all accounts that I've seen.
I don't think he got snubbed at all.
Yeah, I mean, he's killing it for this team, but at the same time, this team is in the worst division in baseball, and it's not even close, not to mention. And they're playing really terribly right now. So it's kind of expected, in my opinion.
Yeah, and also, like, the thing about it is that people have to remember is not just the Tigers suck, which is true, but
big time.
If you go from like a stats position, if you want to say that they should have put Castellanos in over Michael Brantley, I can kind of look at that and go maybe, but that's the only one I can give you. You have to realize that Nick Castellanos in the American League playing outfield is in maybe the most elite position group in all of baseball, with guys like Mike Trout and Mookie Betts and guys like Jackie Bradley Jr. Off the top of my head, I'm forgetting who's in the All-Star roster for the outfield, but just it is the deepest position group maybe in baseball. So to call him a snub when he plays on a team that's 16 games under 500 and he's got numbers that if you really stretch out the stats, even though he's the best player for his team, he's like maybe the 7th or 8th best outfielder in the American League. And that's like, it's not a knock on Nick. He's having a really nice year. It's just, dude, you play in a position where everyone else is having a really nice year too. So it's tough for me to go, you got snubbed.
Yeah, and also we have to remember that this is the Tigers' like first year out of their fall from grace, I guess you could say. You know, people are adjusting to not seeing Tigers in all-star games, not seeing these all-star players on the field. Obviously, going through a rebuild, that's going to happen, but they want that one guy. They want like just that one guy. Give me one person on the all-star team that I can root for, and maybe he plays an inning and I can get excited to watch. Which is totally understandable. I mean, who doesn't want that, of course? But I think in this case, it is what it is. You can't do anything about it. Nick is, like you said, Nick is having a great season, hitting 305, 15 home runs, 56 RBIs at this point, which by all accounts they're good numbers, very good numbers. So I understand the complaints, but you can't do anything about it.
Dude, Tanner, imagine being a person who gets all worked up over someone getting left off an all-star roster.
There's some passionate fans out there, man. They want to see their players.
They love their guys.
Some of these people have been through the team through the terrible 2003 season, 100-something losses or whatever, and then they go through the highs of 2006 and 2012, and then just to come back down again, going down to that level of just utter despair of the early 2000s. It's got that feeling to it right now as they're going through the rebuild. So I understand the passion that they want a player just to look at. But you get Joe Jimenez because the league's got the stupid rule that every team has to have at least one representative, which is just dumb because
Why are you handing out participation trophies for sometimes mediocre players on bad teams? Like, just because you have to let someone in. And I think that's a dumb rule. And I also think all-star games in general are stupid.
Oh yeah, I hate especially the baseball All-Star game. I hate one that it's incentivized to, for home field advantage in the World Series. It's kind of ridiculous to me. Like, I understand it makes the players want to play harder in a sense, but it's like, why? It doesn't make sense. You're throwing a bunch of guys on the field who have never played together before. They don't have any chemistry, and you're just hoping that they can win the game for the whole division. You know what I mean? Like, it's asinine to me.
I actually think I don't think it is anymore. I think last year was the first year that they did, and I might be wrong on this, but I think last year was the first year that they did, it went on the best record, and which is a great thing. But we also have to realize that it took baseball 100 years to figure out that the All-Star game should just be an exhibition. And at a certain point, like, there's not an All-Star game in sports that I like. The baseball All-Star game is by far my least favorite because it took you that long to figure out you shouldn't incentivize it. And like, it's not baseball. What do I want to watch these guys go out and play 3 innings for at positions, and then, like, everybody gets a handout, and you'll pitch an inning, and then you'll pitch an inning, and then you'll pitch an inning. Like, no, I don't want to fucking watch that. It's not baseball.
Yeah, I agree. And, like, a guy like you mentioned, Joe Jimenez, like, he's going to get, like, maybe he'll get one batter, maybe one out. You never know. I mean, who knows what the managers are going to do, but it's just like, okay, that was great. He threw about 6 pitches, and now he's gone. So,
I mean, there's also the chance that the most of the game and the most of the field that he sees is the national anthem when he gets walked out to stand there and look
That's
pretty.
True. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And then you get to hear Joe Buck talk about Joe Jimenez for about 5 seconds, and then it's over. That's all you get. Better luck next year.
Like, I cannot imagine being a person who gets genuinely upset about All-Star Game snubs, because name an All-Star game that's good.
I will. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say that was my next question. Is like, what's your favorite All-Star game? And for me, is as ridiculous as it sounds, I actually like hockey the most, just because they actually tried to be creative and they made it 3-on-3. I think it's actually somewhat interesting. I don't even like care for hockey that much, I'll be honest, but like, the All-Star game the All-Star, whatever you want to call it for hockey, is just it's interesting to say the least.
Now, I'm not a hockey guy, so I don't really. I know that they messed with it and they did the 3-on-3 thing, but didn't they also make it 3 teams and they played a tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, they tried to change it up a little bit, which I respected. They tried. You know what I mean? Like, that's all you can ask. And the NBA tried too. They tried doing the 2 captains and then they pick their players. I kind of think that's going to be a good, the next few years, that's going to be really solid to watch and good entertainment value on the court.
Dude, and honestly, I liked that with the NBA and that kind of street ball style where they had everybody go out and pick your teams. But the thing about the NBA All-Star game is no one's ever going to play defense. Except, I mean, last year there was a little more than expected, but usually you're just going out and, you sit in front of the TV for 2.5 hours and watch guys throw oops back and forth.
Yeah, that's true. It's like 140 to 138 final score. But, I mean, like you said, at the end of the most previous basketball All-Star game, like, they actually, like, towards the very end of the game, they started actually playing defense and started going hard because they did have the incentive behind it. I think it was, like, money for charity or something like that. I could be wrong. Or they just got money flat out. I'm not sure which one it was. But
I think they got bonuses.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was for charity or if it was just for them in general, but still, I mean, the incentive was there for them to play and go hard. So,
and it was a more entertaining All-Star game than usual. But the whole point here is just, if you're a person who's genuinely upset that your player is not represented in a meaningless game, what do you like? Why are you getting upset about? That's a ridiculous thing to be legitimate, real life mad about.
I will say real quick that, like, people towards the end of players' careers, they're viewed at their all-star appearances too, which is like, that's on the media for valuing these exhibition games that are meaningless basically, and like, how many appearances they had in these all-star games, and that determines their greatness, which is ridiculous. That's just stupid.
Also, especially for baseball, to determine a player's greatness on all-star appearances, because it has the worst selection process of any league.
Oh, yeah.
We had Derek Jeter with a broken leg getting all-star votes because just on name recognition. And then you got guys, like, you can't pick the pitchers. It's just dumb.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily like a fan vote for. It's just a popularity contest at that point. All the big markets are going to get their players in regardless of whether they're good or not. So it's just like, I could do without it. I'd rather just have, like, these managers or these players pick each other to go to the All-Star game.
I think a player vote for All-Star games would be very interesting.
people like Mike Trout, like they would get in every year more obviously just because they're great. But it'd be interesting to see those background guys that maybe the media doesn't see as great, but these players are like, wow, this guy's really good and he deserves to go.
Yeah, that's the other point is that like people generally, I believe that baseball fans are more casual than most sports fans. I think unless your team is really, really good in your city, you're not all in on baseball. So most people just see what they see on ESPN, and then if you go vote, you're only voting for the people they show you. When there's guys out there like Blake Snell, and I know you can't select pitchers, but guys that really deserve to be there that are getting snubbed that you just don't hear about.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's just, the MLB's got to make a change to their format, and you said that they did change it, but they need it's just baseball is pretty boring as is. It's hard to not to hate on baseball at all. Like I love baseball, but like to an average fan, their attention span is not that long. You can't do that. You got to make it somewhat entertaining in some aspects. So they got to make a change at some point.
Yeah, and I don't know what they do because attendance is so down, and a lot. I mean, they're going to have to market the hell out of the All-Star game because people are already down on the home run derby saying basically just get rid of it. And the All-Star game itself, I can't picture myself, honestly, on Tuesday night sitting down to watch the All-Star game.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way. And you touched on the home run derby. I've been so over the home run derby for years now. It's the same thing every year. Hearing Chris Berman say back, and then I don't know if he still does it anymore. But oh my God, I'm good.
Yeah, dude, it's not an event that is appealing to me anymore. And the All-Star game especially, the All-Star game hasn't been appealing to me for a while, and now I really can't envision myself Tuesday night sitting down to watch it. I'm going to give it my best, but the most exciting baseball story to me right now is how amazingly the Red Sox are playing in mid-July, and the fact that they could literally go 32-32 in the second half of the year and still win 100 games. And they have insane games happening right now that I wish I were in Boston to be a Boston Red Sox fan because I think I could really be all in on baseball this summer, but I'm not. But they're having games like Mookie Betts hitting a go-ahead grand slam on the 13th pitch of an at-bat, and Xander Bogaerts hitting walk-off grand slams in the same series. And, that's the stuff I really miss when the Tigers were super competitive and there were awesome, fun games like that that could get me excited about an All-Star game. But this year, man, I don't know if I'm watching it.
I'm not. I'll tell you safely. I'm not even going to bother. I will not even look for it on my guide. It's just not going to happen. I have better things to do than watch that.
What I might do is go through the Big Ten Classic stuff and see if they're playing any Big Ten football games because college football is right around the corner, as evident by Twitter this week. Wild interaction with Khalid Hill and a random Sparty that brought in Brian and Jack Allen and then brought in Devin Bush and reminded us that the rivalry is at peak level right now.
Yeah, and it all started with this. I don't know the exact some Spartan account. I'm a Michigan fan, so I'm a little biased, of course. But some Spartan account tweeted a video. I don't remember the exact words they said, but of Devin Bush getting pushed over in the last Michigan State game last year. He literally got tripped over a pile, and I don't even remember if you remember what he said, Shea, but they said something ridiculous, just totally out of line, and this just sparked this whole conversation thread between former Michigan players like Khalid Hill. And then Devin Bush jumped in, and like you mentioned, Jack Allen and everyone else jumping in there too. It was ridiculous what just went on.
Yeah, so the tweet here from Sparty Digital. Just read an article that referred to Devin Bush as the most terrifying player in college football. Don't tell that to Luke Campbell. And then a video of Luke Campbell just sunning Devin Bush after a play. And Khalid Hill said, pushed him over a pile when he wasn't looking. Yeah, that dude is tough for that. Tell him in D-Bush 11 to line up my money on 10, on God. Which brought Brian Allen into the conversation saying, hopefully your money wasn't on Michigan for the last decade. And I don't know who's winning here, but Devin Bush decided that he was going to come out and say, Lil Bro talking again, they must be out of timeout. If you're on the coaching staff at the University of Michigan for the football team, dude, how many suicides is Devin Bush running that next day?
I'll tell you exactly how many, Shea. Zero suicides, because you know what? I'm sick of this whole argument that you guys make up, oh, just quit talking, bro, quit talking. It's just ridiculous. So what do you expect this guy to do? Do you expect him just to sit there and be quiet? Like, this has been the rivalry for years and years now. Back and forth, jibber jabber, whatever. I respect Devin Bush for this, okay? You know, you might say, oh, we've beaten you 8 out of 10 years now. Okay, thank you. We all know that. But these guys aren't just expected to be quiet, all right? He's got to go out there on the field. This isn't some fans are like, oh, thanks for the chalkboard material. Thanks for this hype video. We're gonna make D'Antonio play for the players. Well, it's just I don't know. I'm mind blown at some of these reactions by these people. It's common for these players to talk trash to each other on the field. Newsflash.
I'm just saying, the lil bro comment, ever since Mike Hart coined it, it's been 2-8 and a negative 95 point differential and a rough look for the program ever since that's been coined. So my whole thing is this. As a Spartan fan, I'm not offended by it. As a Spartan fan, I fucking love seeing that. Because that just like Mark D'Antonio has proven to me in his tenure that he can do a shit ton of work with one game and all of the trash talk that goes back and forth and motivating those players. So to me, that excites me because I think you're just lining up a bunch of 20 to 21-year-old men on those football fields that are ready to take Devin Bush's head off for disrespecting the program. 2, when are Michigan players going to learn that saying little bro doesn't work out for you?
Okay. You know, that's fine. You had your moments, all right? You had your moments with Rich Rod as head coach and Brady Hoke. Even Brady Hoke got a win on you. And then, like, okay, it doesn't make sense to me how it's just blown out of proportion, okay? Devin Bush said the right thing to me, okay? It's just, like...
I feel like it's mental gymnastics. I feel like Devin Bush can't possibly have said the right thing saying little bro when he just lost to them at home in a critical game the year before.
Right, okay, I know the whole little bro narrative has run its course. I know. But under Jim Harbaugh, if you're a Michigan fan, you're confident, all right? This is why. I'm going to tell you why right now. Because although we're 1-2 against you under Harbaugh's tenure, look at those 2 losses. Let's be real. You won on a fluke punt, all right? The dude dropped the ball. Plain and simple, you know, you trouble with the snap. Yeah, we get it. All right, you got one. But the other thing is, you mentioned motivation too. Do you think these Michigan players aren't motivated? Do you think like they just talk trash just to talk trash and then go lose? Like they remember Michigan State walking into Ann Arbor and winning a game in a monsoon last year. All right, they have all the motivation in the world they need to go out there and play. They don't need, you know, little chalkboard material, as you guys put it, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, from players talking trash. They remember you guys walking into the stadium and winning in a monsoon. I think they'll have enough motivation to go out there and give it their all and play.
I just, like, my whole thing with it is you have a team that you have not been able to beat for a decade. Why are you giving them extra fuel? If I'm on the Michigan coaching staff, why are you giving these guys extra fuel to beat your ass when you already don't beat them?
I mean, it is what it is, man. They at the end of the day, Devin Bush is the guy who has to go out there and back it up. And honestly, he's going to be a junior this year. He's one of the best linebackers in America, period. And the stats can back that up. And he's going to go out there and show you why he is one of the best.
That dude's going to have his head on a swivel.
Okay, yeah, because you guys are going to cheap shot him as he's not.
Well, I'm not saying it's going to be. I'm not saying it's going to be a legal hit. I'm just saying you fire up a bunch of 20, 21-year-olds with a tweet like that, you're going to have your head on a swivel in a football game because that's where they'll settle it.
That's fine.
They're not going to pull up with switchblades in a parking lot, but.
Well, no, it's a rivalry game. What do you expect? I mean, of course, I would expect shit like that to happen all the time.
And I will also say for the 2015, the fluke loss deal is I have always said, and I just want to get it on record on a podcast because a lot of these people listening to us haven't heard us argue about this game before. In that game, I think you're unfair in telling the whole story when you just say the punt because you have to look at that play altogether where there's 11 guys on the line for Michigan State. There's no return man, and Harbaugh ran that out and took guys out of the blocking where he took – I think he had like 6 guys set for blocking schemes when the ball snapped. So, yeah, dropping the ball is a rough look, but you're already putting your guys in a bad spot. And I mean, as far as the fluke goes, Michigan State outgained Michigan by 150 yards in that game.
Okay, but you're telling me if the dude doesn't catch it cleanly and punts it away, the game's over? You're not going to tell me that?
Well, he didn't.
I'm just saying in a theoretical – I know he didn't. Of course, I watched the game. I was right next to you. But I'm saying in a world where the dude catches the ball clean, there was no one within like 5 to 10 yards of the dude when he initially got the ball, when he caught it or whatever, it hit his hands. I think he gets it away clean, and at that point there was like 11 seconds in the game or something like that. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, unless you pull off some miracle.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, you like in the world where he catches it and gets it off, that's fine. But I'm saying he didn't, and Harbaugh had the situation set up where he was already in a bad spot with 11 guys on the line going straight at him and only having 6 blockers. It's a rough look. And again, bringing up the flukiness of it, but the stats tell the story too, in that like Michigan State showed up and played really well in that game.
I mean, it was a bend don't break defense, bro. That's all it was. And okay, let's talk about last year too. Okay, this game came down. Michigan had 5 turnovers. Am I right? I think it was like 4 or 5, something like that, in a monsoon, throwing the ball around the yard for God knows what reason.
Which I'll blame coaching on last year's game too.
Thank you, Levine, or whatever the offensive coordinator, who is no longer with us. Thank God he's gone, because
Tim Drevno.
Drevno, that's it. I don't know why I thought Levine. I'm thinking of someone else. But dude. And the game came down to the last possession. Let's not forget. If Michigan doesn't throw 5 picks, 2 fumbles, whatever it was.
Let's also not forget that Michigan State was up 14-3 at halftime and running the ball all over the place and had to stop because of the rain and just decided to run it up the gut and hold the ball.
I mean, let's not forget though. At the end of the first half, Michigan was in scoring territory and fumbled the ball. Like this stuff like that can't happen, and like I said, it came down to the end.
But again, it's not going to be any easier to do that when you have to go to East Lansing, and you've just given these guys bulletin board material.
Fine.
Whether you like the bulletin board material narrative or not, it's something D'Antonio has proven he works with.
That's fine. You guys can think that the whole course is like that whole narrative is coming to an end. It's got to stop. Oh, Michigan's talking again. Here we're gonna write this on a board, and you guys get hyped. Nah, it's done. You guys are done. I'm telling you right now, Michigan will walk into East Lansing just like Michigan State walked into Ann Arbor last year, and Michigan will take a win in East Lansing.
I'm so happy we have this on record.
Shea, I will put down any amount of money on Michigan walking into East Lansing this year and taking a win.
Any amount of money.
Just like they did in 2016, they will do the exact same.
All right, we'll take care of that off the air because I'm definitely running a bet with this. I don't know how. It's really tough for me to talk about it right now because I want to see Shea Patterson play before I talk too much about previewing the game. I don't know what he's going to look like on Michigan. I know what he looked like on Ole Miss. I'm not super impressed. I don't know what he's going to look like on Michigan, but I do know against top 30 defenses in the SEC, in FBS defenses, he had trouble. And it's not going to be any easier when he comes into the Big Ten and he's going up against Michigan State, returning 11 of 11 starters from a top 10 defense. And he's got to deal with other defenses, Ohio State, teams that have good defenses. Don't forget that by conference rankings, the Big Ten finished first last year. So Shea Patterson's not necessarily walking into an easier schedule either, but I do have to see how he plays before I can really go out and say what I think is definitely going to happen in East Lansing in October. But I think to go either way and say it's a definite win for either team is a bit of a stretch.
Okay, yeah, that's safe. You're playing it safe, which is fine. And I'm a bold person, all right? And I'm going out there for my team. I'm telling you right now that they will win that game.
I'm bookmarking this moment in the podcast.
That's fine. You can highlight it. You can clip it. Show everybody. I don't care. Michigan will win this year in 2018 in October, whatever the date is, in East Lansing.
All right. Tanner's putting his life on the line here with Michigan pick in October, all the way in July.
Yep. No one wins playing safe. That's all I'm gonna say. You got to go for it, and I'm going for it.
All right, that's fair. And then we also got to talk about the Big Ten futures odds that came out, which kind of support your belief because I think they had Michigan as the 3rd highest ranked. I know Ohio State was first at 10-11. Wisconsin was second at 5-2, and then I believe after that it was Michigan at 4-1.
Yeah.
Then Penn State at 5-1 and Michigan State at 12-1.
Yeah, I don't think the nation is sold on Brian Lewerke either. Sparty is. Sparty fans are, but the nation isn't. I think that's kind of what it's coming down to as well.
There's a lot of sleep on Brian Lewerke going on.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that list, but someone ranked all the quarterbacks in the Big Ten, and Brian Lewerke was getting some major shade, which I didn't agree with.
No, yeah, they ranked him at 6th, and people torched that guy for it. He also had the kid at Northwestern. What's his name? Christian Thorson, right?
Yes, I think that's his name.
And he had him down low on the list too, and that guy's projected number one, or not number one, but first round draft pick.
Yeah. And I think he had the Ohio State quarterback pretty high up there. I can't remember the dude's name, but he's young stud. Like, I mean, he showed out in the Michigan game last year, so I don't necessarily disagree with him on that. But the other ones, like, there's just some random names in there. I was like, Brian Lewerke at least has to be top 4.
I think he had Shea Patterson at 1, which was fucking
No, he didn't.
wild.
No,
it was definitely top
2.
2.
He was number 2.
Which to me, like, if you break the numbers down, is wild.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, and the argument for Patterson has been that, like, his O-line at Ole Miss was not the greatest, but we also have to remember Michigan's was not the greatest last year either, which is why, you know, dudes like Wilton Spate were getting hurt, and, you know, Corn was out every other series, it seemed like, and then Peters came in. It was just a roulette at quarterback. So, but I mean, of course, that was a pretty young offensive line. They're getting better. The whole offense is getting better. So
new coaching. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I want to make a pick, and if I do make a pick today, it's going to be Michigan State because I'm going to pick based on who's playing at home if I'm doing it right now. But that's what I say. I want to see Michigan play first because they have so much going on with the coaching staff and with the offensive line. I have to see what changes and how they look going into next year before I can really make a pick. Michigan State, I think I know what I'm getting. I know I'm going to see 11 starters come back on a top 10 defense, even though that defense faltered again in big games like Ohio State. The same can be said for Michigan's top 10 defense as well, that they faltered at Penn State. They had trouble late against Ohio State, things like that. They had, I think, a 10-point lead against Ohio State, and they had trouble late in that game. So I just have questions, and I want to see the first few weeks of the season and get some answers in that department, and then I really will be comfortable making picks.
Here's the difference, though, Shea. I'm going to tell you right now. The Michigan defense was great by all accounts last year, and they were in those big games. The Ohio State game they were in, Penn State, it was like a one-possession game at halftime. Obviously, they blew them out at the end, whatever. And Michigan State was one possession. But the thing is, that defense was so good, but the offense was so terrible. And that means defense is on the field that much longer. I guarantee, like, if you showed the minutes, like the amount of time and snaps taken by that defense on the field, it would have been astronomical, just the amount of time and, you know, they were spent on that field. So I think that's a big difference you got to look at. Also, you got to think about, like you said, Michigan State's bringing back 11 starters. Michigan's bringing back 10. Yep. They only lost Mike McCray, which is I didn't like Mike McCray personally, just because I thought he was a little too slow in man coverage and stuff like that. But I think this defense is going to be flying around to the ball just like they were last year, and they're going to be a dominant force in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and the same thing goes for Michigan State, bringing back 11 starters. A guy I love on that defense, Joe Bacci, can kind of just another year growing into being the leader of the defense, and he's a really good player. One point that I made was, you look at the Big Ten, and I know Ohio State got these 10 to 11 odds, and I know Wisconsin gets 5 to 2 odds because they play in a dumpster of a division, and you basically can write them into the West Division champions and going to Indy. I look at the rest of the division, and I wonder with the odds if you agree that you look at Ohio State, and it's a year where they have a freshman quarterback, and they have a ton of youth. And I know they have Urban Meyer, who keeps things a revolving door and keeps things pretty consistent. But if you're Michigan, and if you're Michigan State, and you're bringing back 10 starters on defense or 11 starters on defense, and you're bringing back a team like that, well, Ohio State is kind of in their quote-unquote rebuilding year, as it were, despite the fact, obviously, Urban Meyer is making the revolving door happen there. This is your best shot if you're Michigan and Michigan State. This is the most beatable Ohio State will likely be for the next couple years, and the most unbeatable both those teams will be for the next couple years. So that, to me, I'm like, this is your year to get it done for both schools.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's a big year. Just you gotta take advantage of Ohio State while they're down, and like you said, Urban Meyer's done a great job of just keeping them relevant even in those rebuilding years. And when they have a young quarterback like that, you don't want to give him more experience and more playing time. You don't want him to, as the season goes on, he'll get better, and you'll see it like towards the end of the season. And I thought he was great in just one game, one half or whatever he was playing in the Michigan game last year. So just because it's Ohio State and it's Urban Meyer, I'm going to give them credit, and I think those odds are deserving of what was given. So for now, they're definitely the favorites. You can never ever sleep on Ohio State, as much as I hate them, and I hate saying that. Like, it literally like burns my tongue just spitting that out. It's just you got to respect them as much as you can.
Yeah, and I think like you definitely do have to give respect, especially to a guy who's won 2 national titles. And as a coach, At times, I think that there are warranted criticisms that his offense is very simple, but he's won 2 titles and he's an ultimate recruiter, so you have to give respect. I just feel like this is your year if you're Michigan State, that you have to take advantage of a Ohio State that's bringing in a ton of freshmen and redshirt freshmen and young guys that haven't seen a ton of playing time. This is the time to take advantage of that. And that's why the one thing I will say that I firmly believe is the truth in the Big Ten, the Big Ten champion will be decided in East Lansing in October.
Well, then, if my bet goes right, then Michigan's a Big Ten champ. No,
there you go. And hey, more power to you if it happens, because then I can't criticize Harbaugh anymore.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Clip this just in case it does go right, so I can point back to this episode. All right, thanks.
I definitely will, and it's going to happen either way. I'm going to clip it either way. But I truly believe whoever wins that game is going to win the Big Ten, and that's good news if Michigan wins it, because then I can't criticize Harbaugh anymore. I've said fairly consistently, if I'm Harbaugh, I got to get it done in 4 years, because all the other coaches that have gotten it done in the past decade did it in at least 4, or at most 4.
Now, remind me real quick, does Michigan State plays Ohio State this year? Is it in East Lansing?
It sure is.
It's in East Lansing. Okay, that's a big bonus for you guys.
Yep.
We haven't touched on this at all. Michigan's schedule is just brutal for next year, opening up like two out of the 3 big games at Notre Dame, at Michigan State, at Ohio State. Those are, for Harbaugh to keep, like, he's got to remain relevant and keep his team in the playoff discussion in Big Ten, whatever. He's got to win 2 out of 3 of those games, in my opinion, for his team to have any sort of success nationally.
I think it was a couple years ago that Michigan got kind of screwed, and they had to go to East Lansing back-to-back years. And that really screwed them up, because now, too, it's flipped. So every time Michigan gets, obviously it works in favor for the team, but one year Michigan will get both Ohio State and Michigan State at home. The next year Michigan gets both Michigan State and Ohio State on the road. And that kind of sucks for both programs.
Yeah. I agree. I don't like that schedule where it's like, you're at the on the road all season in your big games, and then next year you're at home all season, because it's like, but I will say this for this year, that like if Michigan comes out of there with 2 out of 3 wins, that team will be so road tested and so ready for the national spotlight of whoever they play. It doesn't really matter, because I think these are juggernaut teams that they're playing. So you got to look out for that, and they could be a force to be reckoned with come the end of the season. Of course, I'm getting way ahead of myself, but I'm just giving some insight to the future.
Well, and to add to you saying that they play in a juggernaut division and really a juggernaut conference, I think we're going to see a year here where, and I don't want to go, a Big Ten team is going to win the national title, because I think the SEC is still so insanely top-heavy with Alabama and Georgia that those are head and shoulders above the rest of the nation. But top to bottom, I think the Big Ten is going to take another step in becoming clearly the best conference.
I agree. Realistically, though, I think this year is going to be a little bit of a down year, just because you got teams like Penn State we didn't talk about. They're losing a bunch of guys. They're going to go down a little bit, in my opinion. And then Ohio State, like you mentioned, in a rebuild. And then, the West is just, the West.
But I think, to the West's credit, I think you have a team that's on the path to coming back a little bit in Nebraska. And I think that there are other, Iowa's not too far removed from having a ton of success either. I think there's a chance that a couple West teams that we're not talking about could come out and be decent. And again, like Purdue last year, and Northwestern has a quarterback that's going to go in the first round. I think there's a lot of teams that people aren't talking about in the Big Ten, and I think the Big Ten, realistically, could take another step in being better than everyone else.
I mean, as a whole, I'll agree with you. I think the Big Ten beats up on each other a lot, of course. But I don't know why you have so much love for Nebraska. They were a 4-8 team last year, and Iowa's always Iowa. They're always like a 4 or 5 loss team, but they're a huge trap game. If you go to Iowa and you have to play a game there, they're an automatic loss. If you're a top 5 team in the Big Ten and you go to Iowa, it's over. You lost already. Just don't even go. So, I get that. But other than that, I mean, the Big Ten is, top heavy. Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan in the East, and then Wisconsin. And then it's kind of like whoever is going to show up that year. Last year it was Northwestern at 10 wins. Other than that, it's just kind of a shit show per se of just who's going to come up and rise in the West and give Wisconsin a run for their money.
I think it could be Northwestern, and I'll tell you what, I don't have a ton of love for Nebraska. I do have a ton of respect for Scott Frost, the head coach. I think he's a guy who is a good motivator. He's a great recruiter. They're coming off a year, 2 years ago, they had top 2 recruiting class in the Big Ten, and then I think the year after, top 3. And I think that they just went through a rebuilding period. This is a year where not a lot of people are talking about Nebraska. I think Nebraska could maybe be an 8-9 win team and surprise some people.
Yeah, I mean, if you're giving your surprise pick for the Western Division, I'd probably have to go Minnesota. You got to row the boat, baby. Row the boat.
PJ Fleck. I think I like Minnesota a lot. I think the West really could look better than people think. I like Minnesota and I like PJ Fleck, but I think he needs one more year.
We'll see.
He came into a really tough situation.
Yeah, he did. And I mean, coming from Western isn't exactly the greatest situation ever, but he did take them to one of the best seasons that school has ever seen, if not the best. So
he also had an All-American wide receiver in his pocket.
That's true. He did go to Tennessee, so I mean, it's whatever. But you never know. We'll see what happens. I'm excited for football. My itch is becoming like it's a rash on my body, Shea. Like the football itch is in me.
Dude, I'm with you.
I am ready.
And the college football itch especially, there were all the tweets about NCAA 14 in the Denard Robinson cover and how that game was the last one released. And I swear, man, I was ready to go buy a PlayStation 3 and buy that game and just play it because I need college football in my life right now. Okay, so before we wrap up, last thing, Lakers fans doing some serious mental gymnastics, and this is just a lighthearted topic that I wanted to touch on a little bit because the guy that painted the mural of LeBron James with the King of LA thing ended up just painting over it in white paint because Lakers fans are doing such mental gymnastics to figure out what to do with LeBron James that they kept vandalizing the mural and making fun of him for basically not being Kobe. And for one, this might be the most Laker fan thing I've ever heard of, and two, how stupid are these guys?
Pretty dumb. I think they're all going through a midlife crisis. I think they don't know what the hell they got on their team right now. So it's just childish and petty, and I feel terrible for that artist because he put in a lot of work, and that was an amazing piece of artwork, and then just gets ruined by some idiots who like to ruin things.
And then he just had to paint over it. And I think Laker fan is ridiculous because so many Laker fans think Kobe's the greatest Laker. I've made an argument that Kobe's a top 15 player all time, not top 10. And look, if you agree with me on that, then we aren't going to have a discussion about it because you understand my thought process. And if you disagree with me on that, there's literally nothing I could say to you that could possibly change your mind on where you think Kobe should be ranked. So we'll just move on. But I have him at 12th all time in my list. I don't think he's a top 10 guy. And I think Laker fans that are like, this is the greatest Laker of all time. Dude, Shaq won more finals MVPs in a Laker uniform than Kobe did.
I mean, you're not wrong, but I'd also, just because we grew up watching him, we know what he's capable of. I think people fell in love with him. I mean, I respect him. I don't like him. Like, he's not one of my favorites that I've ever seen, but I have to respect what he was. And I think not putting him in the top 10 is a little ridiculous. And maybe that's a topic we save for a different episode.
It might be. I'll tell you the guy I put in there instead, though. Just a little tease action for the people. Maybe we can do a top 10 NBA players next week. Little tease action. I got Tim Duncan in there instead of Kobe Bryant.
Okay. I mean, that's a tough one. You could go either way on that, to be honest. So, I mean, yeah, we might have to save and pocket that one for later and see what happens.
All right, so that's all that we got for you this week with the Monday Mashup. Thank you again, Tanner, for joining me. And a lot to look forward to next week. And, yeah, I think we might do a little top 10 NBA players next week.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks for listening. Love you.
See ya.